Let's explore why we could meditate when we're already happy. This morning's lesson is drawn from a good-hearted question found on Reddit. The question reads, how can you convince your mind to meditate when you're already happy? Convincing my mind to meditate when I'm feeling negative emotions is relatively easy. It usually acts as an escape. But what about when you're feeling positive emotions, like at the start of a new relationship or a big achievement? How do you persuade your mind to meditate when it feels amazing? So first of all, I want to congratulate the person who wrote this question for two reasons. One, well, I guess multiple reasons. One, their vulnerability. Two, the fact that this is a well thought out question. And three, for their command of the English language. And I know that sounds ridiculous, but a lot of people write like English is their fourth language. So well done you. So here's my plan. I'd like to start with broad brushstrokes, then lead to the finer details. The duality of remedial meditation. The fundamental duality in Buddhism is that we have been conditioned by society, especially by late-stage capitalism, to be forever trying to control our circumstances, forever trying to shove at some things and reach for other things. This is considered the fundamental duality in Buddhism, described by some as aversion and avarice, described as others as hating and loving, described by others as hope and fear. Now, this doesn't mean we're not supposed to feel those things, but there's a difference between occasionally relying upon our primal drives and always being dominated by our primal drives. It's a question of nuance. But if the only thing that drives us to meditate is pain, then that infers a bigger problem. There are two paths. Well, even Led Zeppelin warned us, in Stairway to Heaven, there are two paths we can walk on. 100 years before the advent of the Buddha, Lao Tzu either wrote or compiled the 81 poems of the Tao Te Ching. And we learned that there are two paths, the path of yin and the path of yang. And despite the ravings of stupid white men, the stated purpose in the Tao Te Ching is to help us to recognize the difference and to always habitually choose yin. Now, the yin and the yang found its voice in Buddhism by looking at the two character studies of Gautama, who was known as the Buddha, and his wicked cousin Devadatta. Devadatta was described as being rigid, fearful, controlling. Let me try that again. Rigid, fearful, superstitious, controlling, elitist, cryptic, competitive, and cruel, while Gautama, the Buddha, was described as being flexible, loving, rational, laid-back, egalitarian, lucid, cooperative, and kind. So when we are practicing methods that are a contrivance, that go against our fundamental wiring, then those methods are fundamentally painful. And the only thing that can get us to use them is the specter of a greater pain. However, the third and fourth enlightenment factors are physical energy and mental joy. And they serve as a litmus test. When we have been taught meditation and mindfulness correctly, they are physically energizing, they're mentally joyful. I don't know how to say a word that says increase joy. But they increase our joy, they increase our energy, and we feel, not intellectually, but physically feel that they are pleasurable. The pleasure principle really is the secret of mastery. As long as something is painful, we're going to have to force ourselves to do it. The fundamental definition of mastery is that we do something spontaneously, habitually, easily, and effectively. For instance, most adults urinate, defecate, consume a beverage, and eat food at least once a day. These things are, in a healthy central nervous system, are associated with pleasures because they're integral to life. The tools to experience meditation and mindfulness as the pleasurable phenomena are given to us by neuroscience. They require zero faith. So I intend to explore the fine details of this with you after approximately 30 seconds of housekeeping. This is Lama Jigme Gyatso with his new webcam that kind of makes me look green. Kind of look like an evil Martian trying to steal Christmas. Do you remember that movie? Anyway, this is Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School for more than 30 years. I've spent about 8 hours a day, almost every day, studying, practicing, mastering, and reverse engineering the teachings and techniques of each sect of Buddhism so that you would not have to. Welcome, my friends, to Meditate Like a Jedi, which is made possible due to the generosity of viewers just like you. Welcome to the latest iteration of Easy Meditation, which is approved by both Buddha Cat as well as Dharma Doggy. Kind of a big deal. Guys, let me just blow the cover off of this. Despite the fanciness of terms we might have heard, such as Satipasati, Dhyana, Mahamudra, Chan, Protozen, Zen, Mahasandhi, Ati-yoga, Dzogchen, and Trekcho. It's all just mindfulness and meditation. Any educated idiot can make things more complicated, more difficult, and more violent. However, it takes a lot of courage and a little bit of genius to move in the opposite direction. The great luminaries of any field, including Buddhism, have always strove to make the path as quick and as easy and as efficient and as pleasurable as possible, including the Buddha himself, who promised it is possible to master his path in as little as 7 days. I've got an ulterior motive, and here it is. I wish to teach you 4 techniques to get you up to speed in meditation in less than 15 minutes. It has been my experience that enlightenment is nothing more than mastery of the Eightfold Path. So my intention is to keep the first half of this morning's live stream oriented towards the Eightfold Path. My hope is that if you attend regularly, you too will master the Eightfold Path in record time. Mindfulness, my friends, is the 7th fold of the Buddha's Eightfold Path. And as promised, let us view it through the lens of neuroscience. Every time we exhale, whether we know it or not, we are accessing the sympathetic nervous system. No, it is not ensconced within the 3-pound supercomputer between our ears, but instead is found in the thoracic or ribcage region of our thoracic spine, as is poorly illustrated in this piece of art. If you have a better illustration, please send it my way, and I will incorporate it into the text. No, the sympathetic nervous system has not evolved to support either extreme of mind blanking or active concentration. Well, then what has it evolved to do? Our sympathetic nervous system has evolved to help us perceive, and to do so vulnerably, passively, viscerally, and randomly. The clever folks insist that vulnerability is the key that unlocks the vault of mindfulness. And nothing makes us feel quite as vulnerable as nudity. Perhaps that is why the two figures comprising this meditation archetype, or this archetype of meditation, are painted nude. Well, you might say, if we're not supposed to actively concentrate upon our breath, then what should we do with our breath? Let us treat our breath the way a piano student treats their metronome. When we notice our body breathing in, let us silently and mentally recite, perceiving this very turbulent play of mind. When we feel our body exhaling, what's going on here? When we feel our body exhaling, let us silently and mentally recite, relaxing into mind's non-graspable nature. Here's the cool thing. This ain't an affirmation. Why isn't it? Because an affirmation is wishful thinking. They're pretty lies we tell ourselves as an act of magical thinking, hoping that we can transform reality through the use of pretty words. But this is actually a reference to the neuroscience that's already been proven. And it's just helping us to groove with what's going on rather than fight with what's going on. What I'd like to do right now, and by the way, good morning, what I'd like to do right now is practice this 12-syllable exercise with you for 16 rounds. But what is a round? In this context, a round is simply one inhalation followed by one exhalation. More interesting question is, how am I going to count 16 rounds on just the 4 fingers and 1 thumb of my left hand? This brings us to something I like to call Bengali crease counting. During each inhalation, I'm going to move the tip of my left thumb so that it touches either one of 12 sets of creases or one of 4 fingertips. Now, I gotta be honest with you. I'm doing all this jibber-jabbering, therefore I'm most likely breathing faster than you. Therefore, in the time it takes me to do 16 rounds, you will most likely not do 16 rounds. You will do 12 or 8 or less, and that is not an indictment. But if you want to, you can follow along with me while we're practicing this 12-syllable exercise. And if you do this once every 12 hours or so, for a week or so, you too can master this technique, ungainly though it may be the first time you try it. Let's go for it. Due to the nature of my disabilities, I have difficulty holding my hands still. If that's inconvenient for you, I apologize. Of course, doing this, I feel like Count Floyd on SCTV from the late 70s. Ooh, scary children in 3D. Quick review. During each inhalation, thanks to our sympathetic nervous system, we're wired to notice sights, sounds, sensations, flavors, scents, and the like. We're also wired to notice emotions, intentions, thoughts, memories, and imaginings. We're wired to notice that which is external, internal, physical, mental, pleasurable, painful, interesting, boring, glorious, and grotesque. Of course, this asks the musical question, what do we do with all this stuff that we notice? And that, of course, brings us to meditation, the eightfold of the Buddha's Eightfold Path. Every time we exhale, whether we know it or not, whether we mean to or not, thanks to our parasympathetic nervous system, ensconced within the lower lumbar region of our spinal cord, as well as the tippy top of its cervical region, we are wired to physically relax and mentally release. Or in other words, every time we relax into our exhalation, whatever we noticed during our previous inhalation could feel less graspable, could feel less controlling. Now, because all complex life forms on this planet have evolved to think symbolically, let us sprinkle some figurative language on top of this. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever we noticed during our previous inhalation could begin to feel as if it was as non-graspable as a vast, empty void. Any English teacher will remind us that a simile is only as useful as it is relatable. So, what is a real-world example of a non-graspable, vast, empty void? How about the illusion of the infinite azure sky on a bright and beautiful cloudless morn, which, although could be compelling to the eye, is most certainly non-graspable to the hand. Perhaps that is why the two individuals comprising this archetype of meditation are depicted as translucent and as non-graspable as a rainbow in the sky. As we inhale, please silently and mentally recite sitting tall, thus reminding our body to generate a vertical traction between our tuchus and our head. During our exhalation, please silently and mentally recite the three-syllable verb relaxing. If you're going to practice Bengali crease counting, please do so in your lap, which sounds far more salacious than I intended. let us explore our first of 3 fringe benefits of mindfulness and meditation. The first is quite simply loving kindness, which constitutes 50% of the Buddha's Eightfold Path. So let's explore this through the paradigm of bad news and good news. We'll start with the bad news. When we practice active concentration, when we exploit the medial prefrontal cortex to practice active concentration and the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex to practice active contemplation, our blood mass collects at a bit of tissue located at the bottom of our limbic system, described as our amygdala, which functions as the seat of both anxiety and aggression, which is extremely painful. And if this is your daily experience of meditation, it explains why you have to coerce yourself to practice it. Now for the good news. When we replace active concentration with passive mindfulness, when we replace active contemplation with passive meditation, then our blood mass shifts to our anterior cingulate gyrus, also illustrated right here, which is located about 2 or 3 centimeters behind our forehead, and which functions as the hub of our mirror neurons, the seat of empathy and compassion and love, which are profoundly pleasurable. Not necessarily in a dopamine sort of way, but most certainly in an oxytocin sort of a way. This is why the Buddha taught that when we practice mindfulness and meditation properly, then it is going to give us physical energy and mental joy. Perhaps this is why the greatest Dzogchen Lamas of Tibet have insisted that the highest love is spontaneous and uncontrived. And perhaps it is also why the 2 figures comprising this archetype of meditation are classically depicted as beautiful. During our inhalation, let us kick back and watch the antics of minds, perceptions, emotions, intentions, thoughts, memories, and imaginings. As silently and mentally we recite, notice this. Similarly, during our exhalation, let us relax into mind's non-graspable nature. As silently and mentally we persist in reciting the 3-syllable verb, relaxing. We come now to this morning's fourth of 4 meditation exercises, which is also the second of 3 fringe benefits of our practice of mindfulness and meditation. Consider, if you will, this gal who is the color of a cumulus cloud. Observe how she appears to be actively sporting in tantric union. This reminds us that contrivance will always be trumped by spontaneity. Now let us turn our attention to her partner, the color of the azure sky, who appears to be passively savoring the same tantric union. This reminds us that not all spontaneity is created equal. For instance, the scattered spontaneity that we could sample after our consuming our third espresso in 30 minutes will always be trumped by the centered spontaneity that is the effortless byproduct of both mindfulness as well as meditation. In fact, when our choices and our utterances and our deeds flow from the effortless effort that is the 6th fold of the Buddha's 8-fold path, the effortless effort of love's centered spontaneity, then our lives become as blissful as a real or imagined Buddha's paradise or Pure Land or Vati, as depicted in Buddhist paintings. During our inhalation, let us kick back and watch the antics of mind as silently and mentally we recite the demonstrative pronoun this. And during our exhalation, let us relax into mind's non-graspable nature as silently and mentally we recite the one-syllable verb is, just like the musical The Wiz, where they instructed us to ease on down the road. I was dragged to an off-Broadway performance of it. How off-Broadway? It was on the West Coast. I was dragged to an off-Broadway performance of it probably in the 70s, and despite my efforts to be cool, I loved it. Or at least I love the things I remember from it. I probably like the faster stuff rather than the slow stuff. Don't like ballads. Most ADHD folks don't. Having successfully climbed to contemplative cruising altitude, together as a team, let us meditate as transformatively as Yoda on Dagobah, under the guidance of the Force Ghost of Qui-Gon Jinn. Welcome to this morning's live stream. The moment you have a specific question about Buddhist meditation, Buddhist philosophy, or how to apply them, please type your question in great detail in the chat window. Let us explore the third fringe benefit of mindfulness and meditation. Right view, the right view of impermanence, the first fold of the Buddha's Eightfold Path. And of course, I have an editing opportunity. Whoops, look at that. Interesting spelling, don't you think? Let's see. Let's make that 25 and see if the text will fit. Fabulous. Now there's a good chance. Display. Okay, so there we go. A fringe benefit of the effortless, of relying upon our sympathetic nervous system for mindfulness during each inhalation is that we involuntarily notice change, sometimes subtle, other times jarring. We notice changes in the sights, sounds, sensations, flavors, scents, and the like that we perceive. We also notice changes in our emotions, intentions, thoughts, memories, and imaginings. Sometimes that change feels pleasurable, sometimes it feels painful. Change is an inevitability. With the changing of the seasons, we see the impermanence of a year. Change is an excellent teacher. With the changing, let's try this again. With the waxing and the waning of the moon, we see the impermanence of a month. With the rising and the setting of the sun, we see the impermanence of a day. With the swelling and the sinking of our chest, we feel the impermanence of a breath. Ever changing, one and all, there is nothing permanent to grasp. During our inhalation, let us kick back and watch the antics of mind as silently and mentally we recite the demonstrative pronoun this. During our exhalation, let us relax into mind's non-graspable nature as silently and mentally we recite the one-syllable verb is. Although our mind can master the Eightfold Path in as little as a week, for those of us raised in the West, for whom sitting is a new thing, it might take us a bit longer to master the physical aspect of meditation. I recommend a gentle approach, starting off sitting for 5 minutes every 12 hours or so, sitting in a sustainable way upon a folded yoga blanket with your ankles resting on a folded yoga blanket and your tush resting on a zafu, or circular buckwheat-filled cushion. Notice that in the most ancient Buddhist statuaries, the legs are not grotesquely twisted into a pretzel. One lower leg is simply resting upon the other. Now, the first time you do it, it might not look like this. Take a lesson from the ballet dancers. They will tell you that the knees are only hinge joints. It is the hips that are ball joints. Therefore, as we allow gravity to gently pull our knees down, we do so from the hips and not the knees. This can be done after a week or two. It's no big deal. The second week, we can bump it up to 10 minutes every 12 hours. The third week, 15 minutes every 12 hours. By the conclusion of the 15th week, it could be easy, sustainable for you to sit in meditations for about 15-minute lesson in a 60-minute meditation. So just set your timer for 5 minutes and come to the live stream every 12 hours, live or recorded, and have fun. Enjoy the journey. You'll be surprised at how swift it can be. My favorite translation of the second fold of the Buddha's Eightfold Path comes from my Tibetan teachers, who describe it as wishing love. Tibet's great Karma Jigme insisted that the essence of all morality, the essence of the hundreds of rules of the Pratimoksha vows, is simply nonviolence. Consistently train in mindfulness and meditation, and wishing love will be an effortless and automatic experience. You might think of it as mental morality. I'm a big fan. I listen to Democracy Now! Channel 5 days a week on my smartphone as I'm shaving. You can't listen to that type of world report without wishing that others had their needs met in the most wonderful way, that people weren't killed or exploited in any way, shape, or form. We're wired for empathy, regardless of whether people look like us, or sound like us, or think like us, or vote like us. The more we train in effortless mindfulness and meditation, the more kind communication, the third fold of the Buddha's Eightfold Path, will occur naturally. We can consider this interpersonal morality. the more time we spend in effortless mindfulness and meditation, the more kind our conduct will be, the fourth fold of the Buddha's Eightfold Path. The more kind our conduct will be, the less we'll find ourselves punching puppies, kicking kittens, or boiling babies. Or clubbing seals. We'll just lose our taste for such things. The more time we spend practicing mindfulness and meditation, the more we will find ourselves effortlessly practicing the kind commerce, which is the fifth fold of the Buddha's Eightfold Path. The kind commerce, where we cease to be a Karen striving forever to get others fired, and we cease to be a Chad striving to drive others out of business, and instead are defined by the cooperation and kindness of love. Let us divinely bring the four bases of mindfulness into the path of awareness and letting go. Clearly, we're using divinely as a metaphor. During each inhalation, let's try this again. As we relax into our exhalation, our perception, our awareness of perceptions, emotions, intentions, thoughts, memories, and imaginings could seem as clear, yet as non-graspable, as an enlightened mind symbolized by a one-syllable mantra comprised only of light. As we relax into our exhalation, our experience of the interpersonal, typified by communication, both verbal and nonverbal, could begin to feel as resounding, yet as non-graspable, as a real or imagined mantra, comprised of only of light, symbolizing enlightened speech. As we relax into our exhalation, our experience of the physical could feel as sensual, yet as non-graspable, as an archetype of enlightenment described as Yidam in Tibet, comprised only of light. As we relax into our exhalation, our experience of our circumstance or lot could be we could experience our circumstance or our lot as appearing yet as non-graspable, as the real or imagined Buddha's paradise or Pure Land or Vati depicted in Buddhist paintings and murals. As we inhale, let us kick back and watch the antics of minds, perceptions, emotions, intentions, thoughts, memories, and imaginings. As silently and mentally we recite the demonstrative pronoun this. During our exhalation, let us relax into mind's non-graspable nature. As silently and mentally we recite the one-syllable verb, is. Let us bring the 5 physical regions into the path of bliss and letting go. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever lower abdomen we might have perceived during our previous inhalation could begin to feel as if it was as non-graspable, as real or imagined, an Amogasiddhi Buddha comprised only of emerald-colored light. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever navel region we might have noticed during our previous inhalation could begin to feel as if it was as non-graspable, as real or imagined Ratna Sambhava Buddha comprised only of gold-colored light. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever chest we might have noticed during our previous inhalation can now begin to feel as if it was as non-graspable, as the real or imagined Akshobhya Buddha comprised only of sapphire-colored light. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever throat we might have noticed during our previous inhalation could begin to feel as if it was as non-graspable, as real or imagined Amitabha Buddha comprised only of ruby-colored light. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever crown of our head we might have noticed during our previous inhalation could begin to feel as if it was as non-graspable, as real or imagined Vairochana Buddha comprised only of diamond-colored light. As we relax into our exhalation, one moment, please. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever wind element we might have noticed during our previous inhalation could begin to feel could begin to feel dynamic, yet non-graspable. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever earth element we might have noticed during our previous inhalation could begin to feel stable, yet non-graspable. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever water element we might have noticed during our previous inhalation could be experienced as moist, yet non-graspable. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever fire element we might have noticed during our previous inhalation could begin to feel warm, yet non-graspable. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever space element we might have noticed during our previous inhalation could begin to feel vast, yet non-graspable. Let us bring the five aggregates into the path of awareness and letting go. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever body or form we might have noticed during our inhalation could begin to feel as if it was as non-graspable as real or imagined Vairocana Buddha comprised only of light. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever feelings of pleasure or pain we might have noticed during our inhalation could begin to feel as if they were as non-graspable, as real or imagined Ratnasambhava comprised only of golden light. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever appraising or rating of our pleasure or pain we might have noticed during our inhalation could begin to feel as if it was as non-graspable, as real or imagined Amitabha Buddha comprised only of ruby-colored light. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever survival-oriented impulses we might feel in reaction to our appraisal could begin to feel as if they were as non-graspable, as real or imagined Amugasadi Buddha comprised only of emerald-colored light. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever mind or awareness we might have noticed during our previous inhalation could begin to feel as if it was as non-graspable, as real or imagined Akshobhya Buddha comprised only of sapphire light. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever dullness or befuddlement we might have noticed during our inhalation could begin to feel as if it was as non-graspable as all-pervasive wisdom. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever competitiveness or vying or jealousy we might have noticed during our previous inhalation could begin to feel as if it was as non-graspable as all-accomplishing wisdom. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever craving we might have noticed during our previous inhalation could begin to feel as if it was as non-graspable as discerning wisdom. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever pride or clinging we might have noticed during our previous inhalation could begin to feel as if it was as non-graspable as equalizing wisdom. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever hate we might have noticed during our previous inhalation can begin to feel as if it was as non-graspable as mirror-like wisdom. Let us bring the duality of the five perceptions into the path of the non-duality. of awareness and letting go. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever duality of beauty or ugliness we might have perceived during our previous inhalation could melt into the simplicity, into the non-dual simplicity of just appearance. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever duality of fragrance or foulness we might have perceived during our previous inhalation could non-dually melt into the simplicity of just scent. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever dualistic perception as harmony or discord we might have noticed during our previous inhalation could now non-dually melt into the simplicity of just sound. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever dualistic experience of delicious or disgusting we might have perceived during our previous inhalation could now non-dually melt into the simplicity of just taste. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever dualistic perception of pleasure or pain we might have noticed during our previous inhalation could non-dually melt into the simplicity of just feeling. Let us seal this morning's practice by percussively chanting an excerpt from the total space of Vajrasattva, composed by Prahe Vajra or Garab Dorje, translated into Italian by Chokyo Nomkai Norbu, translated into English by Adriano Clemente, adapted and amplified by yours truly. During this percussive chanting, please perform a gentle golf clap before your upper chest. If you feel that I have earned it, you could give this live stream a thumbs up. You could even help support this channel. In approximately 10.5 hours, I would very much like to return to lead today's evening meditation class and group practice. And if you are as geeky as me, may the Force be with you always.